Today's episode of Game Geeks is sponsored by DriveThruRPG.com. Hey folks, welcome back to Game Geeks. I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Today's episode, we are reviewing two products for the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game, Peril at King's Landing and Wedding Night. These are both adventure supplements, although I very strongly suggest that you consider Peril at King's Landing to be a small campaign due to its size, depth, and intricacy. Both of these are for, as I mentioned, for the Song of Ice and Fire role-playing game, which we have previously reviewed. If at any point during or for a limited time after this review, you're interested in downloading these from DriveThruRPG.com, you can use the code seen below, Game Geeks Ice and Fire. What do these bring for you? Well, I'm going to start with Wedding Night because it is a shorter product and not as involved to review. Wedding Night is simply one sort of adventure episode, whatever you want to call it, in the lives of your characters. This assumes that the characters are part of a minor house that have to do some of the things that nobles and noble houses do in the Westeros world of George R.R. Martin. It is very difficult to review adventures because I don't want to give away any of the spoilers in case, or tell you what's really going on behind the scenes, in case there's players watching this who want to play it. So I'm going to try to talk about these in some of the vaguest non-spoilery terms. If this comes off as a weak or soft review, I apologize. Just realize I'm trying to minimize the spoilers involved. Wedding Night is a single adventure. You could probably pull this off in one night, although with my group, I would probably go for 1.5 to 2 because it can get fairly involved. It deals with the characters going to a wedding of two minor houses that are within the same sort of area that the character's minor house is in. From there, as you can expect, if you've read the Song of Ice and Fire, if you know any of the stories in there, hilarity ensues. This is a low to no magic fantasy setting. So there's no magical healing, there's no spells running around. It's usually dealing with political machinations and the most unpleasantness of human nature. That's one thing I thought Martin has really hammered well, is that it's not just orcs that are nasty. People can be even nastier when they really want to be. It is a fairly short 1 to 2 night adventure that really gives your characters a taste for what Westeros and playing in that era can be really like. The time period assumed in this is sort of after Robert's Rebellion, but before the events of the books in A Game of Thrones. However, you could very easily put that in almost any era you want and it wouldn't change things that much. The second product, Peril at King's Landing, is a lot more involved. It is essentially it opens up with your characters are on their way to a tournament to see wonderful things, see beautiful people, potentially marry beautiful people, get involved in intrigue and treachery and all the fun stuff that goes on in Westeros. It's a very well-detailed but not necessarily terribly linear adventure, such that it wasn't, well, you go to this joust and you go to this archery match and you go to this melee, then there's dinner here and you meet this person. It's very open-ended with a host of NPCs that you can interact with and sort of get into some of the unfolding backstory involved in this. Each of the principal characters, I should say, is fairly well described. You understand their motivations and you understand what drives them and makes them tick. Along these lines, probably, in my opinion, one of the more interesting parts of this adventure is the fact that you get a really nice map of King's Landing that really details the city itself and the different areas, and it's a nice kind of mini gazetteer to King's Landing itself. I mean, that's really the major city that in Westeros that your characters can interact in, so it's well worth that's worth the price of admission alone, in my opinion. If I had the level of criticism against these products, it would be, and I don't know if it's against these products as much as it is against the tone of the entire series, everything in this series is so unrepentantly dark and gloomy. I mean, would it kill some of the people in Westeros to smile every now and then? But if you've read the books, if you know what the setting is about, you should know what to expect in these adventures. If you want to get your hands on some very well-crafted and very tonally appropriate adventures for this particular role-playing game, for the Song of Ice and Fire system. I highly recommend you get these products, and you can download them for a limited time after this review with the coupon code seen below, Game Geeks Ice and Fire. For Game Geeks, I'm your host, Kurt Wiegel. Good day and good gaming.
We average 9 new titles a day. That's over 60 a week. And we've got well over 15,000 RPG titles online right now. Drive-Thru RPG, the one true source for RPGs.